because of weather. We had an awful lot of drama both in the mid part and then after the safety car that created, and Esteban Ocon, who looked a shoe-in for a win, ended up not only being assaulted early on by Felix Rosenqvist, who hit the back of his car, but he also attacked the curbs a bit too savagely and did more damage of his own. And it was a combination of the suspension dramas that he'd sustained, twofold, added together, that caused him to lose time towards the end. And under the safety car, Tom Blomqvist caught him. Blomqvist had been gifted a place when Max Verstappen crashed, another one after Felix Rosenqvist crashed out. But Blomqvist onto the tail of Ocon on the restart with no suspension damage at all, was able to take full advantage of that safety car period, put himself onto the tail of the Frenchman, and it was a really brave move that Blomqvist pulled heading towards Parc Beaumont, one of the faster parts of the circuit, to go through and grab the race lead. Ocon then had to work oh so hard to hang on to second place, which he just did in the end, but only just, from an inspired Jake Dennis having his best of the season. Well, the pit lane will be open very shortly to release the cars round onto the grid. It is a very busy programme at Pau, an awful lot of support races, and I think it might be one or two of those cars that just need retrieval. But as soon as the track is clear, then out will come the cars. They will slot into place on the one-by-one staggered grid. The grid is based on the second best lap time that a driver posted in qualifying yesterday, and qualifying was split into groups, so to give people an equal chance of finding a clear bit of road, so they're put into two equal groups of Group A and Group B. And then the faster driver out of those groups takes pole position. The rest of his group lines up behind with the other group in order on the opposite side of the grid. There is a man with a point to prove, Felix Rosenqvist. It looked as though he was about to attack for the race lead in race 2, and attack he did, only to go into the back of Ocon and spin himself into retirement. He landed, he spun, he hit the tyre barrier backwards, and that was the end of Rosenqvist. So, big disappointment for him, and he's wanting to fight back in this race. It's been a really miserable season so far for Felix Rosenqvist. He drives for Muka Motorsport, one of the top teams, but with misfires, down on power engine, mistakes, all added together, he comes into this 9th round of the championship with 5th as his best finish of the season. And this is somebody who was tipped as a potential champion before the year got underway. Well, the fans have had lots of good racing to look forward to, and they have seen plenty of drama. They're going to have more of the same here, I'm sure, as the cars pour their way out onto the circuit. Pau is a superb track. It has lots of old French architecture around it. It's not blighted by modern skyscrapers like some street circuits are. It has bags of charm and character, and it really is not only a spectacular circuit to watch from, but a spectacular circuit to drive, because it's very undulating. This is at the top of the circuit, the fast part of the track towards Parc Beaumont. That, incidentally, is where Tom Blomqvist got the lead in the middle race of the weekend. And then the cars plunge downhill. They get to this area, the start and finish line. The hairpin at Poimiro is where Esteban Ocon has just turned through. The rest of the Prema Power Team cars behind him. Ocon, as a Lotus Formula 1 junior driver, runs in the Lotus livery. That's why his car stands out from all the other Prema Power Team chassis on the grid. And the field will slot into place. They will, of course, have one further warming up lap before the race gets underway. And then it will be 29 laps or 35 minutes, depending on which is completed first. Ocon has taken pole position for every race this weekend. It looked as though, as I say, he was going to dominate race 2, but it wasn't to be. Were it not for the safety car period, it could have been a whole different ball game. Here, he will try to fight back. He still has a good lead in the championship. 146 points, plays 92 of Tom Blomqvist. A number of drivers you see going for the pit lane, not because they have a problem, but because they can squeeze through for another installation lap, have another look at the circuit, get a bit more warmth maybe into the rubber. And Ocon it will be, who starts from pole position on the outside of the track. That's where the grip is. And then no doubt you'll expect to see him swoop across, cover the line as he has done in both previous races thus far, to repel any challenge. It's going to be Felix Rosenqvist with him at the front of the grid, and then Max Verstappen, a race winner this year, and Tom Blomqvist, a double winner this year, lining up on row 2. Ocon is new to Formula 3 this year. He has been successful in karting and then in Formula Renault, and has acquitted himself very well, to the point where you forget that he's a rookie. He's up against more experienced drivers and humbling them, but he drives with such a confidence and such smoothness that you think he's been racing a Formula 3 car for much, much longer than he has. This will be his 9th F3 race, and so far this season he has taken a win at Silverstone, a win at Hockenheim, and a win here. He's won more races than anybody else, and those 3 victories standing him in good stead as he heads the title race. Brings the field round to the grid. 1 and 2 you can see, including there Riccardo Agostini, number 7 in the Euro International car, just doing practice starts at the end of the pit lane. It's an important thing to get right in a Formula 3 car, because for many, many years the clutch in a Formula 3 car has been a very fine device, a bit like a switch. It's either on or off. There's not much travel in it. And Riccardo Agostini turning his way then now up through Pont Oscar. That's the part of the circuit where Felix Rosenqvist came to grief earlier. He just braked a fraction too late, and with the road slippy, so he went into the back of Esteban Ocon. But now the road is bone dry. There's a man who's had a lamentable weekend, I'm afraid, Antonio Fuoco, who has had a 17th and a 19th out of the 2 races so far. He crashed in free practice on Friday, so he hadn't had much running, so he was really struggling in qualifying, so he qualified badly, so he's been mired in traffic in all races, and it really has been a weekend to forget. He has a very vocal fan club, but they've not been able to really cheer him up the order, I'm afraid. There is the man for pole position, Esteban Ocon, who will slot into place at the very front of this 1x1 staggered grid. The young French driver, still in his teens, and the laptop plugged in, data retrieved. Ocon, the man to beat, but he is beatable, as Tom Blomqvist proved early on. Now, in the dry conditions that we have now, whether it's going to be quite so dramatic, I'm not convinced. It's a much cooler day than yesterday. It was very hot and sunny, and today's cooler temperatures may well help the engines a little bit more. But Esteban Ocon knows exactly how to control things in a Formula 3 race, so let's see whether he can bounce back from that race 2 defeat. He looked decidedly po-faced, one could say, on the podium. He was not amused about having had the win snatched away from him, really 2 laps from home, but what better way to bounce back than to score a victory. Felix Rosenqvist will line up with him. Felix, who's an experienced Formula 3 driver now. He's had 14 wins if you put the FIA and the Euro Series championships together, and he really should be winning more and more and more, but it's not been a great season for him, nor for Muka Motorsport. And as the grid is formed, the countdown continues. Just the last couple of cars, in fact, to slot into place. So we've had the 10-minute board, and the drivers ready for business. The man at the very back of the grid is Roy Nissany, who got himself from last into the points in the second race, from the very back to 9th. Helped in part by others having dramas ahead of him, but it was a good drive by Roy Nissany in terms of keeping him out of trouble and not doing anything rash. The man that slots into place 3rd on the grid, Max Verstappen, Jos Verstappen's son, and a very brave driver indeed. It's his first year of Formula 3, indeed it's his first year of car racing. He's done a lot of testing in the winter, but he is already a race winner. He scored a victory at Hockenheim, and Verstappen, he's a mighty committed driver indeed. Watching him through the Fosse chicane part of the circuit over the course of the weekend, it is very, very impressive indeed. He spun though at that part of the track in the second race, did some damage, but Verstappen, I'm sure, will bounce back from that. So he lines up 3rd on the grid, and then 4th is another second-generation competitor, Tom Blomqvist, a double winner this year. 5th on the grid, Jake Dennis lines up ready to go. Jake's had his 2 best results this weekend, because 4th in race 1 was his best, and he went 1 better in the second race of the day to get onto the podium. He was on the podium as 3rd rookie on Saturday, but now a genuine podium finisher. And then to line up next on the grid, lining up 6th, is Mitch Gilbert. Good qualifying effort from the Australian driver. He's another man that's experienced in Formula 3 cars these days. He's had spells in the British as well as in the FIA Championship, but Mitch Gilbert will be one to watch. He also drove in the British Formula 3, in the German Formula 3 Cup, and Formula Renault in the UK prior to that. Dennis van der Laar, starting 7th, has really been impressive by way of overtaking this weekend. He pulled off perhaps the move of the race on Saturday to go around the outside to gain position at Pont Oscar, which is the left-hand uphill under the bridge hairpin, and he was able to gain ground there. It didn't get him into the points, but it was a very, very brave effort. And so Dennis van der Laar has proved that he can be aggressive when required. And lining up with him, 8th on the grid, Lucas Auer, the man who is 3rd in the championship. He's been a winner this year, the nephew of Gerhard Berger. But Lucas Auer, again, a bit like Rosenqvist, not really being able to get the most, it seems, out of the Muka Motorsport car on a consistent basis. Muka, one of the top teams, one of the more experienced teams in the championship, Peter Muka's team. There is John Brandt Meisner, who drives for the Fortec squad, and the Swede has had a pretty decent season thus far, with the points finish. The 10th place is his best. This weekend, 12th and 11th, his 2 results. So he's been there or thereabouts. Had a good scrap in the earlier race, but not quite able to battle his way into the points despite his best efforts fighting against Jordan King. Antonio Giovinazzi, who raced well to get on the podium at Hockenheim, has been a little bit subdued here this weekend. Giovinazzi will start 10th on the grid, and then 11th is where you will find Gustavo Menezes, the American driver, who is certainly a brave driver, that's for sure, the way that he's been hustling his car around the streets of Po this weekend. And Gustavo Menezes, who drives for the Van Amersfoort team, teammate therefore to Max Verstappen, has come out of the Star Mazda series and took part in the ATS Formula 3 Cup, the sort of sub-level to this, the national level German championship last year. So Gustavo Menezes knows his way around a Formula 3 car, even though Po is new to him. And Menezes will start 11th on the grid, 12th for this race. Bit of a disappointment in fairness, because he's good. He's Jordan King, last year's British champion. Jordan's quick, he's brave, he can be aggressive when it's required, but he just didn't quite get a handle on qualifying, and with that giving you your 2 best times, this grid based on your 2nd best out of that session, he finds himself mired down 12th on the grid. And in a sense that puts you in jeopardy, because you've got cars all around you. It's easier therefore to get caught up in somebody else's drama if you're not lucky. And Jordan King will be wanting to break away from that if he can. So will his teammate Ed Jones, who had a crash in the earlier race today, had a big off in qualifying on Friday. But the Anglo-Emirati, who was on the podium at Hockenheim, has acquitted himself very well in this championship. He drove in the European F3 Open series last year, but this is a much tougher nut to crack, and he's doing a good job. So Ed Jones is 13th on the grid, and 14th is Nicholas Latifi, who has had a really awful weekend. He didn't even start race 1 because there was a bit of contact on the warming up lap, which did for his suspension, and then in race 2 he was used as a ramp by somebody, so it gave him a rear puncture and it lost his rear wing, and eventually he ended up in the tyre barrier just a couple of laps from home. He was classified 17th but never actually got to the checkered flag. And Latifi, whose best of the year has been a 2nd place, which was scored at Silverstone in round 2, really should have been taking more out of his weekend. Next on the grid is Sean Gelael, and then after him is Riccardo Agostini here. Agostini driving for the Euro International team, and the Italian driver, former Italian Formula Abarth and AutoGP racer, lined up ready to go for this 9th round of the championship, the 73rd running of the Po Grand Prix. It began in 1933 when Marcel Lehoux was the winner in his Bugatti, and in recent years it's chopped and changed a bit between single-seater categories, but once again re-establishing itself for Formula 3 cars. Felipe Guimaraes is the man you've just seen on the grid, and he has also got work to do, having qualified for the 17th slot on the grid. Of course, the time is not in complete order because they are in order per group, so they're in the right order on each side of the grid, but they're not in aggregated order, the way that the qualifying system has worked here this weekend. A spectacular backdrop for the Po Grand Prix. The cars are on the grid. We'll have the green flag shortly to release them, but for the moment the grid is still being cleared, and this is the man who will lead them away, Esteban Ocon, sitting on pole position. The French driver with the Mercedes-engined Prema Power Team Dallara. Felix Rosenqvist's car just being rolled back. Now, is that because there's a problem, or does he just need to be lined up better? Let's see what the team is doing. The Swedish driver, again, ideally placed to do something about Ocon off the line. That chance was denied in race 2 because it was started under the safety car, so nobody was able to do a standing start and try and capitalise on a quick getaway. Now, in the drive, of course, Rosenqvist has that chance. The green flag is there at the rear to say, OK, everybody away, please. We'll be left with 1 engineer per car. And then at the 1 minute board, that engineer will fire up the car's engine and we'll be ready to go. So 3 minutes to go. The next board will be the 1 minute, and that's when these 2-litre engines will all fire up. Numerically, Mercedes is the strongest. There are 15 of those on the grid. There are 9 Volkswagen power plants and then 2 NBE, Neil Brown Engineering engines that, although for many, many years Neil Brown's team have looked after Mugen Honda engines, this is a self-built unit and is developing nicely. It runs in the 2 T-Sport cars and is getting more and more competitive each time out. More and more mileage, more and more data put through it. For the drivers, they have just the steering wheel to concentrate on for the moment, and this impromptu air display comes overhead once more. So the fans at Pau looking at the track, looking at the skies. Hopefully they're not going to be looking at rain clouds. We do want to get through this as a dry race, although might be a bit mean, but a little shower halfway through the race would certainly spice things up and give the teams and the drivers a headache. It might make for an even more competitive race. Max Verstappen needs points out of this. He will gain strongly for a podium finish in race 2, and then at the part of the circuit where he's looked so fast and brave all weekend, he just lost the back of the car. Round it went and into the barriers. And it was quickly hoiked out of the way. No need for a safety car for Verstappen's off. The race carried on, but carried on without him, and so the Dutchman loses points. The Dragonia I Am team, which is Tasty Chicken, represented on the cars of Tom Blomqvist, Antonio Giovinazzi and Sean Galile, whose father is the huge franchise holder in Indonesia of KFC and assorted other fast food brands. And it's good that not only is he funding his son's race, but also an opportunity for Giovinazzi and Blomqvist, because I suspect without the Galile money going into them this year, they would not be on the grid anywhere. There is 1 minute to go. The engines are fired up. The grid is now being cleared. The engineers, having started the motors, sprint off the track, and they go to their area in the pit lane. They hope they're not going to be prevailed upon during the course of the race, but if there's damage, well, they may have to change a nose cone or change a tyre. But if that is the situation, then that driver is effectively out of the hunt, because they will lose so much time. These aren't designed to be pit stop races. And very shortly, the cars are going to be released, ready for the 9th round of the FIA Formula 3 European Championship, the 73rd Pau Grand Prix. For a number of years, the event was run as a non-championship Formula 1 race. Formula 2 started running for the Pau Grand Prix tag in 1952. And then when Formula 2 was replaced by Formula 3000, it was those cars that, strange to believe now, did battle around the streets. The green flag is waved and Ocon and Rosenqvist blast away. And then Formula 3 started taking the Pau Grand Prix title from 1999. Winners over the years: Ben Bartolier, Jonathan Cochet, Anthony Davidson, Rahm Briscoe, Nicolas Lapierre, Lewis Hamilton, Romain Grosjean, and Marco Wittmann and Raffaele Marciello more recently. The World Touring Car Championship ran for the Pau Grand Prix for a couple of years, and last year Formula Renault, Luca Ghiotto, the winner. Esteban Ocon starts round 9 on pole position from Felix Rosenqvist and Max Verstappen. Tom Blomqvist is 4th on the grid ahead of Jake Dennis, Mitch Gilbert, Dennis van der Laar and Lucas Auer, John Bryant Meisner and Antonio Giovinazzi rounds out the top 10. Starting 11th is Gustavo Menezes. Jordan King has work to do, 12th. Likewise, teammate Ed Jones. Likewise, Nicholas Latifi, 14th. Sean Galile's 15th, ahead of Agostini and Guimarães. Antonio Fuoco, at man to watch, 18th, ahead of Tatiana Calderon, who starts alongside Felix Serrales. Then Alex Toril and his teammates Spike Goddard, Michele Beretta, George Shinkoviak, Hector Hurst and Roy Nissany will round out the grid. This is the Foch chicane, and then the cars plunge downhill. The speed building as they get to the Puey-Moreau hairpin. It's hard on the brakes, it's through that right-hander, and then again we plunge downhill. They're just coming away now from intermediate 2 and into the chicane, which is very much a quick flick, but it's put in there just to slow the cars down. Otherwise they'd be getting to silly speeds by the bottom of the hill and get dangerous, so that's put in there just to reduce the pace at which they attack this next section of the circuit. Esteban Ocon then leads the field downhill. To the front of the grid with it, Felix Rosenqvist there in the orange livery, then with the white nose on the car is Max Verstappen. The yellow colours behind Tom Blomqvist, the drivers surging some power through the tyres. That's why the cars are snaking. They want to get warmth into that rubber if they can, because you've got to push so hard to capitalise on the opening lap of the Formula 3 race, and you can't do that on cold or lukewarm tyres. So they've been trying to get the warmth into the rubber as best they can. Also, Esteban Ocon has been trying to gather everybody up behind him. He doesn't want to be sitting there on the grid for too long, because then the tyre warmth just ebbs away. As soon as the orange car at the back has slotted into place, which is that of the Israeli driver Roy Nissany, then we should be ready to go racing. Nissany creeps into picture now. The medical car behind will follow them around on the opening lap. Hopefully it will not be needed. And so, round 9 of the FIA Formula 3 European Championship, the 73rd Po Grand Prix, is about to get underway. We'll have 5 red lights. When they go out, we will be racing now. And a good start made by Verstappen, a better start made by Rosenqvist. There's contact. Verstappen's nose cone gets trimmed. Esteban Ocon was a little bit sluggish away from the line. He had to go defensive. Verstappen has really suffered as a result of that. He's losing places, hand over fist. Ocon very aggressive, contact in the background, and Spike Goddard is eliminated. It's not been a good weekend for him, and he's got broken suspension. So Goddard has gone at the very first corner as the cars stream uphill for the first time. They will get to the Pont Oscar. Don't worry about that yellow flag. That is to say you can't overtake here on the first lap, and there's contact in the background. Some people decided they could overtake. One car briefly airborne, and there's more drama coming up now towards the Lycée Barthou. Gustavo Menezes runs wide. There's a car spinning as they come uphill as well. So mayhem has broken out on the first lap. Alex Torriel is the man who got involved going up to Pont Oscar. He's got broken suspension, so we've lost both the T-Sport cars on the first lap of the race. That is Michele Beretta, who spun heading up towards the Lycée Barthou. So that's another car that is in strife on this first lap as the cars work their way downhill for the first time. So trying to make good his escape is the race leader, but a very good getaway by Felix Rosenqvist. Hopefully will stand him in good stead. He comes across the line. Esteban Ocon is in second place. Tom Blomqvist is third, and Jake Dennis is right up behind him as they come across the line. But there's a yellow flag as they dive down towards turn 1 through the Virage de la Gare. Thankfully it's not safety car, it's just a yellow to cover Spike Goddard's car, and so they can carry on racing as they climb uphill now. Rosenqvist leading then at the end of lap 1 by 9/10 from the slower starting Ocon. Then it's Blomqvist versus Dennis. Different liveries, these two cars, but they come out of the same team, both at Carlin. We're on lap 2. Dennis comes out of the Lycée Barthou, closing up onto the back of Blomqvist. In 5th place when they came over the line, Mitch Gilbert, and so Max Verstappen, who got his nose chopped, we saw it as they left the line, by Ocon, is there in 6th place, and he may have damage. He's certainly not making progress at the moment. Indeed, Verstappen is falling away from Mitch Gilbert as they dive through Foch this time. There's Gilbert, but a very big wait before you get to the 6th place car of Max Verstappen. 7th is Auer, 8th is Van der Laar, 9th is John Bright Meisner, and then in 10th place is Jordan King at the moment. Tom Blomqvist is still coming under attack. Jake Dennis tucked up behind him. They ran together at the mid-part of race 2 of the weekend, and Jake Dennis has been racing very impressively, and that's Verstappen, who is off the road again. Max Verstappen is in the tyres. And on lap 3 of 29, Verstappen's miserable race comes to an end. That, I think, is at the chicane, heading downhill, and Max Verstappen is a retirement then. We've lost quite a few already, and there he is. He just was on the wrong line. Maybe that was something to do with the nose damage that he suffered early on and the lack of downforce, but either way, Verstappen, who in qualifying and race 1 looked all heroic, ends the weekend with 2 retirements to his name. All of that bravery and commitment, I suppose, is fine when it pays off. When it doesn't, it certainly bites. Up front, Rosenqvist is leading now. He was 11/10 up at the end of lap 2. 3rd is this man, Blomqvist. 4th is that man, Dennis. And then in 5th behind them is Mitch Gilbert. So now Lucas Auer is up to 6th. 7th will be Van der Laar. 8th, John Bright Meisner. 9th, Jordan King. And 10th, Antonio Giovinazzi. Verstappen's remains, or the car's remains at least, craned out of harm's way at the chicane as the leaders plunge their way downhill. So we lost Spike Goddard, we lost Alex Torriel, and now we have lost Verstappen as well. The lead gap is extending all the while. This is the replay of the start now. Watch Ocon, he's sluggish away, he moves across on Verstappen, and you see the nose ripple, and therefore it was dislodged. I just wonder whether that did any damage to the car of Ocon as well, or the tyre of Esteban Ocon. Then it was Goddard who got squeezed. He ends up with broken suspension, and that's his teammate, Alex Torriel. A bit like yesterday, coming to grief at Pont Oscar. He rolled there yesterday, would you believe? And then in traffic, the next casualty was Michele Beretta, who spun under braking for the Lycée Barthou. So that was only 3 corners, and there was action all the way. Back to the action that's live now for the race lead, and Felix Rosenqvist all of a sudden is looking like a safe bet for a win, because he's being able to extend this advantage over Ocon. Rosenqvist has far more experience in a Formula 3 car, so he should be able to put that to good use. But 3rd and 4th here Blomqvist ahead of Dennis, and then in 5th place, closing up a little bit maybe, Mitch Gilbert. In 6th is Lucas Auer. He has done the best of anybody in the first sector of the lap, so Lucas Auer has certainly got car speed at the moment. There is Jake Dennis heading downhill. The T-Sport team has got very little to cheer about now. Both its cars damaged and eliminated within the first 3 corners. Over the line goes Felix Rosenqvist. 4 laps are now done as he goes through. In 2nd spot is Esteban Ocon. In 3rd place it's Blomqvist, then Dennis, Gilbert and Auer round out the top 6. Jake Dennis, as we saw earlier on in race 2, admittedly in greasy conditions, is better than Blomqvist at some parts of the circuit, but then Tom Blomqvist able to pull away at others. It's a real cat and mouse battle between these two. Jake Dennis in his first year of Formula 3. Tom Blomqvist in his 2nd year in this championship has also raced in the F3 Cup, so far more experienced in Formula 3 terms. So too is the race leader, Felix Rosenqvist, now looking like the class act that people expected him to be pre-season. Before the year started, he was the tip for the title for a number of people. Twice he's won the Formula 3 Masters contest at Zandvoort. He was the runner-up in this championship last year, so therefore you think, yeah, he's going to do it in 2014 when he really has made heavy weather of the first few rounds. And what he needs more than anything is a bag full of points here. But even if Esteban Ocon only finishes in 2nd, only by his high standards, then he'll still be very, very strong in the championship, because another 18 points is a good haul. You get 25 for a win. Ocon has come through in 2nd place. There's Blomqvist ahead of the red, white and blue Racing Steps Foundation car of Jake Dennis. Next up is Mitch Gilbert and then Lucas Auer. Mitch Gilbert, the Australian driver. Now there is Auer, he's in 6th spot. The Mercedes-engined Dallara turns uphill. In 7th behind is Dennis van der Laar. 8th is John Brandt Meisner. And if he stays where he is, then it'll be his best of the season, the Swede. In 9th, it is Jordan King. And Antonio Giovinazzi runs in 10th place at the moment. Antonio Fuoco is only 17th. He's another of the drivers needing to make progress if possible. Felix Sorales is only 15th, another experienced F3 driver who is struggling. Rattling over the curb as the leader. Downhill goes Felix Rosenqvist. He's on the limit, trying to build this gap. He has done the fastest lap of the race. Now, Esteban Ocon has been shown a black and white driving standards flag. There he is, and the race director says that is for a dangerous manoeuvre. So that can only be, I would have thought, off the start line. There is the driving standards flag now. So Esteban Ocon being warned about that start. So any more chopping like that, he'll be in hot water. But for the moment, Ocon is in 2nd place. Rosenqvist has done the fastest lap of the race, but the French driver is doing his best to take the battle to him. And on that last lap, he was 500 slower. Still, Rosenqvist is the fastest man out there, who locks up, though, heading up to the Lycée Barthou. Ocon not close enough to capitalise. That might be the only mistake that Rosenqvist makes all race. And the real frustration for Esteban Ocon was that he just was not near enough to gain anything significant out of that. A replay here. Jake Dennis turns through. Then Mitch Gilbert behind. That was going to Pont Oscar. In the meantime, though, Esteban Ocon plunges downhill, chasing this man, Felix Rosenqvist. To the eye, the gap is less, isn't it? Downhill once more, heading towards the chicane. Felix Rosenqvist past Max Verstappen's crippled car. Speed building as they plunge downhill once more, heading towards the finish line. Esteban Ocon, the championship leader, runs 2nd. Remember that going into this race, Felix Rosenqvist was only 12th in the championship. So he really does need to keep scoring points and scoring well, but he also needs Ocon to not score well. The battle for 5th, Mitch Gilbert versus Lucas Auer here, is developing because the Muka Motorsport car of Lucas Auer is getting closer, heading uphill. Mitch Gilbert just skims the pavement, but he doesn't lose anything out of all of that. Lucas Auer not able to capitalise. Two different teams, same engine, Fortec versus Muka, but both with the Mercedes unit in the back. Heading uphill, Mitch Gilbert, as I say, has raced well around here this weekend, and a much wider line at the hairpin there for Lucas Auer, and it doesn't help him. He comes out another 2 lengths further back. So not looking quite so strong at that part of the circuit. Over the curb goes Gilbert, over the curb goes Lucas Auer. And the noise when the cars land off that pavement in the Foch chicane is almost deafening. The damage that it must be doing to the floor over a weekend. I think all of these cars are going to need a big hug before the next round of the championship in Hungary. The cars go to the Hungaroring at the end of May, start of June weekend for the next 3 races in the championship, so there's a good break for the teams to do an awful lot of repair work if needed on the cars. Certainly they'll need, as they say, a full service. Past the pits goes Rosenqvist. His lead continues over Esteban Ocon. This man, Mitch Gilbert, runs 5th as he turns his way uphill. He's got the measure of Lucas Auer for the moment, although Auer is there close, he's not near enough to really make a move against the Australian. Mitch Gilbert heads up towards Pont Oscar now, turns into that left-hander, back on the power, blasts uphill, and if anything, I just wonder whether he might be catching Jake Dennis, because the last lap that Gilbert did was an 11.2. He was fractionally slower, but only by 77 thousandths slower than Jake Dennis. But if he can just find a fraction more time, he will start to chip away at the gap to the Brit, and then we could have a battle develop in 4th place. Downhill go the race leaders. Still Esteban Ocon pushing hard to get onto the tail of this man. Felix Rosenqvist wheel lifting as the weight transfers as he goes through the chicane. The last lap that Ocon did was so slightly quicker by 200ths than Felix Rosenqvist. That's not really enough to put him on the tail, but as they come over the timing line now, is there an opportunity potentially for Ocon to string together a sequence of good laps? And into the pit lane there has come the Carlin-run car of Sean Gelael. It's the Jaguar I Am with Carlin car that's in the pit lane, and so Sean Gelael with problems, and that, I fear, may have been the end of his race. In the meantime, this is the lead situation, and you can see the way now that Rosenqvist is starting to feel a bit more pressure from Ocon behind him. The gap from 4 tenths now down to 2 tenths, or down by 2 tenths, so Esteban Ocon is chipping away. The problem he has, of course, is that the closer he gets, then he starts to sit in the dirty air created by the car ahead, and that has this adverse effect on his own aero. But Ocon is fast around here, and he's had such a good weekend. 3 pole positions, a race win, a second. The way that he flicks the car downhill really does suggest now that the commitment is getting more and more and more. As the fuel load has come down, we've done 9 laps out of 29. The tyres are up to temperature. Ocon now having a real push. He was saying after race 2 he was lucky to get to the end, such was the suspension damage incurred. Blomqvist 3rd, shaking off Jake Dennis. There Mitch Gilbert 5th, keeping Lucas Auer in the orange Muka Motorsport car at bay as they head once again to the Virage de la Gare. Uphill goes Auer, but he can't find that required, 3-4 lengths to do anything about the Australian driver. It looks for the moment that he might be condemned to stay in that 6th place. 7th is Dennis van der Laar, but he's quite a long way back. 8th, John Bryant Meisner. Having said all of that about Lucas Auer, he gets a good run up the hill to the Lycée Barthou and closes fractionally under braking, but then he loses a bit of time coming out of the corner. Late on the brakes, gap comes down, but if the car washes out, then you lose all of that advantage you just gained. Look at the cars on the limit through this very fast Parc Beaumont section. Really sideways Lucas Auer. Is he saving it? He is. He threads his way through the Foch chicane. That was a good save, but it could have come to nothing. You can see, just like Ocon is hurling his car around, so too is Lucas Auer, who is now realising that unless he does something, tries to force a mistake out of the guy ahead, then a position is not going to come his way. There, out of Parc Beaumont, Auer was sideways. Look how much curb he uses. Very nearly all 4 wheels off the road. Lucas Auer, a man in a big hurry through the Foch chicane. Doesn't really benefit him because he had to lift a little bit to save the slide, but then as they come across the timing line, he is still pushing to get onto the back of Mitch Gilbert. Uphill once again, the Australian checks his mirrors. You can see the orange car inching up onto the back of him in the hands of Lucas Auer. But Auer is definitely now starting to apply more and more pressure to Mitch Gilbert, and Jake Dennis ahead of them. He is starting to lose time. He lost a 10th on that last lap to Mitch Gilbert. Now what we could end up with here is the 3 of them running together. Gilbert's trying to hustle on and shake off Auer and close on Dennis. Even if he does that, if he struggles to find a way past, Lucas Auer will catch back up to him, but the gap is very definitely coming down. This is the leader. Felix Rosenqvist flicks through the chicane. He's still being chased hard by Esteban Ocon. The gap at the start of this lap was 1.2 seconds. They are 3 seconds clear of anybody else. But Ocon comes over the timing line, still doing his best to close on the race leader. They're both Mercedes engine cars, these. run by the different teams, Mucker versus Prema. And the Mercedes engine has looked very grunty around here all weekend. Uphill once more goes Felix Rosenqvist into Pont Oscar, down through the gears. Second, third uphill, and then back down through the box for this next tight right-hand hairpin. Lycée Bartou. Esteban Ocon dropping away perhaps on this section of the circuit. It was on this part that he lost his race lead to Tom Blomqvist in race 2, but now Felix Rosenqvist just looking so strong. He's got a small advantage over Esteban Ocon. He's got far more experience of a Formula 3 car, and as long as he doesn't make a mistake, I think that Rosenqvist is now going to be very tough to beat. Formula 3 cars back at Po. A huge amount of effort has been put into marketing this event as the return of Formula 3 and highlighting the many champions that have driven both here and in the category over the years. And Felix Rosenqvist comes across the line. It's a huge crowd that's packed into the streets of Po all over the weekend to watch the action. And Rosenqvist, if he can add a Po Grand Prix victory to his CV, will be a very happy man indeed, I'm sure. But Esteban Ocon wants to win on home ground. Well, he did win yesterday, but he would really like to win this one. This is the Grand Prix race itself, but for the moment he is too far back. Up towards Pont Oscar he goes once again. In third place, still Tom Blomqvist, the Brit, son of the World Rally Champion Stig Blomqvist, goes to Lycée Bartou now. And then in fourth place, Jake Dennis. Is he still dropping into the clutches of Mitch Gilbert? The last lap was another 10th lost. It's not a huge drop in pace from Jake Dennis, but Mitch Gilbert is certainly closing up little by little, and taking with him, don't forget, Lucas Auer. Blomqvist over the curb, through the Foch chicane, and now downhill, heading to the hairpin at Puy-Miro. He turns into that right-hander. Another splendid element of the Po circuit is all the grass, all the greenery, all the scenery around it. It's not filled with high-rise flats and modern buildings, with all this old French heritage and architecture, and it's a very scenic setting. It's exactly what a street race should be. Over the timing line comes Rosenqvist, comes Ocon, comes Blomqvist, then Jake Dennis, Mitch Gilbert, and this man, Lucas Auer. He was a winner just a week at Hockenheim. He looked quick in the first qualifying session, struggled a bit in the second session, out of which these 2 times have come for races 2 and 3. And that is what puts you on the back foot. If you don't qualify well in Formula 3, then the weekend becomes very difficult indeed. Sean Gelael out of the race, now watching from the pit wall, we gather, and reckoning that's the worst place you can be to watch a Formula 3 race when you're not in it. So Sean Gelael sadly is out. His teammate Tom Blomqvist still third though, and Blomqvist is not lapping as quickly as Ocon ahead of him. That, I'm afraid, in the wall and going no further, Riccardo Agostini. That is a car that's very quickly going to be hoiked out of the way, so it won't need a safety car, I don't think, but Riccardo Agostini is a retirement. And that, I suspect, was self-induced. Didn't look like there was another car involved. Now the race leaders come over the line, and once again Ocon looking a little bit nearer. He pulls out of the draft, pulls back in again. Heading down towards the Virage de la Gare, that is where Agostini went off, so the yellow flags were there, quickly brought back in as the incident zone is cleared. And heading uphill, Rosenqvist versus Ocon, that gap looking a little bit reduced. Esteban Ocon perhaps coming on stronger now in the second half of the race. He's still got time enough in which to catch the leader and apply the pressure. There in third place is Tom Blomqvist. Last time it was a slow lap by Rosenqvist. It was a 1:12.5 against a 1:11.7 of Ocon and Blomqvist behind. So did Rosenqvist make a mistake out of sight, or has he got a problem? His car, of course, had to be repaired after race 2 when he stacked it into the barriers. But the pace was there early on. Was it just a rogue lap? Let's see as they come downhill. A 12.5 was that last lap time. Esteban Ocon now feeling that he's nearer, sensing that an opportunity might be coming his way. He's doing his best to stay on the tail of Rosenqvist. He certainly looks the quicker of the two. Is that going to be translated by way of a lap time as they come downhill? Blomqvist is still there third, not being able to live with the top 2 who come up over the line now. I think Rosenqvist has responded a bit. The gap looks greater. He's gone through. We'll wait for the lap times to come. And then they head towards Virage de la Gare. Lap 17 out of 29. Uphill. This is the Boulevard des Pyrénées, and as they get to Pont Oscar, the gap is 0.8 of a second between the top 2. So Esteban Ocon has brought down that gap for another lap. Tom Blomqvist still falling away a little bit in third position. But Ocon needs a string of these. He needs to be consistent and fast. But I think now Rosenqvist has sorted out his little error, he's pulling away once more. That gap just widening as they head towards Parc Beaumont. This really is what we've been expecting of Rosenqvist all season. Up until this weekend, he hadn't been delivering, even in race 2, when he tried to attack for the race lead. He tripped himself up and went off. But this is what we've been expecting. So far, he is doing a very good job. He's made these 2 tiny slips. We saw one up at the Lycée Bartou, for example. There, a big slide from Ocon as he puts the power in and the car drifts up towards the guardrail. He saves it. He blasts now downhill, heading towards the timing line once again. Felix Rosenqvist for Look Motorsport goes through, chased by the Prema Power Team car of Esteban Ocon. Behind them, Blomqvist runs third, Dennis fourth, Gilbert fifth, Auer is sixth, seventh is Van der Laar, eighth there, John Brandt Meisner, behind him Jordan King and Antonio Giovinazzi. To Pont Oscar goes Jake Dennis, and Mitch Gilbert, who I mentioned a few laps ago might be closing little by little on the British driver, is doing it again, and into the pit lane comes Nicholas Latifi. His miserable weekend continues. Nicholas Latifi down the pit road. The Prema Power Team mechanics receive him, and I suspect that's where the car's going to stay. Very demoralised. Latifi, and the second Euro International car off the road now. Michele Beretta in the tyres. That is at the exit of the Foch chicane, and this for the race lead. The gap has come right down, and that I suspect maybe because Rosenqvist lifted more under the yellow flags. So Esteban Ocon has closed up even further. Down the hill they come. Yellow flags wave. Are we going to go safety car? I think we are. Yes, we are. So that's another reason why the gap has come right down, because the race leader had backed right off. Felix Rosenqvist sees the boards, and the safety car is on track. There, out of his car, is Michele Beretta. He is okay. Thumbs up, perhaps a bit winded, a bit sore, but he's out of the car, that's the main thing. So Michele Beretta clutching his steering wheel, which is quite an expensive piece of equipment that. He is okay. The safety car is deployed. Well, this has the effect of bunching up everybody. Ocon lost a win, effectively, when everyone bunched up around him on the safety car of race 2. Can he now use this to his advantage in race 3 and do something about Felix Rosenqvist on the restart? Safety car on track. The race 29 laps or 35 minutes, depending on which comes first. So, depending on where we get to with the length of this safety car period, it could be to time that we go rather than the number of laps. So Felix Rosenqvist, just a couple of slips has helped Esteban Ocon, and then the yellow flag zone, and now the safety car has definitely helped the French driver. So the cars turn through Parc Beaumont. A replay of the start. Look at Ocon once again, slow out of the blocks, chops across the front of Verstappen, glances the nose of the car, and Verstappen clips the guardrail. Despite Goddard with contact into the wall, his race done. It was Joachim Kowiak that I think got caught up with him. Tatiana Calderon hit by Alex Toril, and then a spin for Riccardo Agostini. That was just the first 3 corners. This was the mistake by Rosenqvist many laps ago, but Ocon was so far back at that point, there was no chance for him to take advantage of it, and I think he'll be ruining that he hadn't stayed nearer. Yellow flags then continue to wave as the cars come over the timing line. So this is to retrieve Michele Beretta's car from the exit of Foch, which has caught out many over the weekend. It's caught out another. So the safety car on track. We're on lap 20 out of 29 as the drivers work their way uphill. We've got about 15 minutes or so of the race still to go. So the car's uphill. This is a replay of Rosenqvist taking a massive bite of curb, and Ocon flicking the car through in second place behind. This is at Foch, this really, really fast corner, and they're briefly airborne, I think, as the car attacked the curb, was Ocon. Rosenqvist then plunged downhill, the race leader, sets the car up for the chicane, little slide as he turns through that left and then the right, and Ocon behind him, hustling on, determined to stay on the tail of the race leader. So the safety car brings the field downhill, out of Parc Beaumont towards Foch. And as it does so, let's try and catch a glimpse, if we can, of the incident zone. I tell you, the crane operators here and the marshals that work with them are fantastic. The crane is moving towards a battered car before it's stopped sometimes, and the marshals are well drilled. They go in a pair. One goes to make sure the driver's okay, the other attaches the hook to the roll bar of the car, and as soon as the driver is out, bang, it's gone. And it takes no time at all to get a battered car off the circuit. And other race organisers could learn a thing or two. So we're going to go back to racing because the safety car is in this lap. Everybody bunches up, but Ocon has got to be on his toes here and go with Rosenqvist, and he is going with him. Felix Rosenqvist accelerates downhill, but Esteban Ocon knows exactly what is coming. Green flags wave at Pau. The 73rd Pau Grand Prix is back up and running, and Esteban Ocon stays on the tail of the race leader as they go down to the Virage de la Gare. Lucas Auer is attacking as well on Mitch Gilbert, but this is for the race lead. Ocon knows he's got to strike within the first 2 or 3 corners before Rosenqvist starts to build an advantage. He's staying on the back as they head uphill. They go towards Pont Oscar. Is there going to be a chance, maybe, for Esteban Ocon to challenge? Not there is uphill now to the Lycée Barthou. To the inside looks Ocon. He needs to try and force a mistake if he can out of Felix Rosenqvist, but none has come thus far on this lap. Now they swoop their way round towards Parc Beaumont for the first time on the restart. We are on lap 21, and the 2 race leaders work their way towards Foch, with Rosenqvist having to really push hard to build the lead, and he is doing so, I would suspect. It looks like he's running by another couple of lengths. Down they come to the Miro. It remains Rosenqvist up front, Ocon in second place, but the gap is widening. John Brandt Meisner there, under attack. Jordan King going with him. Downhill they head, lap 21 of 29. Jordan King swoops through the chicane, being chased by Antonio Giovinazzi, but the leaders come over the line. Felix Rosenqvist is up front, and it looks to me as though he's been able to build the gap once again on that lap, and therefore Esteban Ocon's opportunity maybe of winning the Pau Grand Prix has just ebbed away. Jordan King very fast, coming through that kink towards the Virage de la Gare, heads through the right-hander, uphill. He's closing on John Brandt Meisner, but he's going to find it hard to get past ahead of the pair, Dennis van der Laar in the red, white and green Italian tricolour colours of Prema Power team. The race leaders turning out of the Lycée Barthou. As they do so, Felix Rosenqvist led at the end of that 21st lap by 0.7 of a second. Can he continue to build that? Can Esteban Ocon force a mistake out of him? There is Nicholas Latifi, still in the pits, still miserable, still going nowhere. The leaders swoop through Foch once more. John Brandt Meisner, the Swedish driver for Forte, fending off Jordan King. In the meantime, we've got Dennis van der Laar busy trying to defend places as well. So too Mitch Gilbert trying to keep Lucas Auer at bay. Out of the chicane, downhill. Felix Rosenqvist over the timing line, continuing to hold sway. Esteban Ocon is second spot. We've done 22 of the 29 laps, and despite everybody closing up under the safety car, no shuffle in the order as yet, despite the best efforts of 1 or 2. Rosenqvist, Ocon, Blomqvist, Dennis, Gilbert, Auer, van der Laar, Meisner, the leading 8 at the moment. Felix Rosenqvist with now 0.8 of a second as his advantage. He can't relax, that's for sure, but Esteban Ocon is not quite near enough to capitalise, nor indeed is Rosenqvist seemingly making any more errors, but that really is the only lifeline now that Esteban Ocon has. If Rosenqvist somehow slips up, we've seen a couple of tiny errors thus far, could happen again therefore, but that really is all that is needed now to give Ocon an opportunity. Downhill comes this battle for 5th, 6th, 7th. Gilbert ahead of Auer. There is the Austrian driver, closing on the Australian once again. Behind him is Dennis van der Laar. Dutchman Dennis throws the car downhill, getting closer and closer to the back of Lucas Auer. Now that's good news for Mitch Gilbert, because now if Lucas Auer has to suddenly start thinking about defending a place rather than attacking for one, then it's all going to change. The pressure will come off Mitch Gilbert. He might even be able to concentrate solely on closing on Jake Dennis. There is Lucas Auer, and he's now having to make his Dallara Mercedes a little bit wider. Tucked up behind is Dennis van der Laar, different team, same combination though, Dallara chassis, Mercedes engine, everybody in the race with Dallara chassis. It's not a regulation, it's just the way that Formula 3 has evolved over the years, with Dallara really since the early 1990s being the constructor of choice, and it's very, very hard for anybody now to break into this. So although it's theoretically a multi-chassis category, it remains the domain of Dallara. The fascination is in the battle between the teams and the engine builders, Mercedes, Volkswagen, and we have none running in this race now, but the NBE engine starting to come good as the leaders go down once more to the hairpin at Poemi Road. There is Lucas Auer. He runs 6th, and he has fallen away from Mitch Gilbert, but Gilbert potentially, even if he gets onto the back of Jake Dennis, is then going to be stuck, hard as it is to overtake around here, and then everybody else will claw their way back onto his tail once more. Over the line goes Rosenqvist. Behind him, with 24 laps now done, is Esteban Ocon. Uphill goes the race leader. Felix Rosenqvist now just needs to keep his nose clean. He's on lap 25 out of the 29, and it looks as though a first win of the season is going his way, despite the best efforts of Ocon. The French driver is just not able to get close enough and really attack. He tried on that restart, but it wasn't to be. Felix Rosenqvist had it all covered. It begs the question in a way, why can't Rosenqvist do this more often? Why couldn't he have driven like this in race 2, for example, when he had that incident and hit the back of Ocon? In fairness, it hasn't all been about his mistakes this year. He's had mechanical dramas as well, which he wants to put to bed. But it proves that on his day, Rosenqvist, as a very experienced F3 racer, can deliver, so he should. But up front, he's doing his best to fend off Ocon and build up an even greater advantage. Mitch Gilbert goes downhill for Fortec. He's hunting down Jake Dennis in the Carlin Racing Steps Foundation car. The race leader, though, is heading towards the timing line once again as he comes through. Rosenqvist chased by Ocon, then Blomqvist, Dennis, Gilbert, Auer, Van der Laar, Meisner, King, Giovinazzi. Same order in the top 10. Mitch Gilbert turns uphill, creeping up towards the back of Jake Dennis. When they went over the timing line, his last lap was actually fractionally slower, despite to the eye looking a little bit nearer. He's good in certain sectors over the cumulative lap time, fractionally slower, but at certain parts, certainly Mitch Gilbert brings down that gap. But look what's happening behind him as they get to the hairpin. Auer is closing, and he's being caught by Van der Laar, and he's being caught by John Brian Meisner. There's a real concertina effect going on now for what are 6th, 7th and 8th places. 9th is Jordan King, 10th is Antonio Giovinazzi. John Brian Meisner on target for his best finish of the championship campaign here. Mitch Gilbert currently running in 5th place. Likewise, he's had 2 6ths so far this season, but if he keeps out of trouble, then this is going to be good. Plunging downhill once again. Over the line come the race leaders. Through goes Felix Rosenqvist. Esteban Ocon behind him. I think now he's going to have to settle for 2nd place, but that's no disgrace. It's still a good haul of points in the championship, bearing in mind that his nearest rival in the title race is Blomqvist, who runs behind him anyway. He's still going to increase the advantage, so it will have been a good weekend at Pau, with potentially a win and 2 seconds for Esteban Ocon, even if at one point we thought he might be on for 3 wins given his pace. Had it not been for that sluggish start in this race, it could have been a whole different story altogether. As it is, he's done his best to take the battle to Rosenqvist, but to no avail. We're on lap 27 here, 29 lap race. Through Foch once more, sweep the leaders. There is Tom Blomqvist in 3rd. I think he'll be happy with his weekend as well, with a win and a podium. And of course, these 2nd and 3rd races of the weekend now coming after the 3rd race, in which he took a 10-place grid drop for an engine change at Hockenheim. So that early in the season was a drama Blomqvist could have well done without. But hopefully that's all now behind him. Doesn't want another engine change, so he can carry on, he hopes, scoring points. And currently he is the man, if anybody's going to take the fight to Ocon, who will do so. 33 races long is the championship, so when we get to Hockenheim in October, it will be fascinating to see how drivers have fluctuated in their fortunes over the year. Will it be the same people we're talking about for the championship, Ocon, Blomqvist, Auer, for example, as the top 3, or will others have come into the picture, and will some of the front runners now have wilted as the year goes on? It'll be a fascinating year, rich in quality in the entry this year in the FIA Formula 3 European Championship, and this race on a bone-dry track, not producing the same drama that we had in race 2. But what it is illustrating are some fine drives by those at the pointy end of the grid. Felix Rosenqvist doing a very good job as ever, So too Esteban Ocon, the man who runs in second place, and Jake Dennis, who will have had a third and 2/4 for his weekend's work, I think will be well chuffed, because it's not an easy circuit to conquer, Pau, but he has done so, and the Racing Steps Foundation driver goes through the hairpin at Poe-Miro, still being chased by Mitch Gilbert. Gilbert has not given up, that's for sure. The race leader has gone towards the timing line now, through he goes, and so Felix Rosenqvist is onto his last lap. He's done 28. There is just one more lap to run here at Pau, and his first victory of the season, the 15th in the history of his Formula 3 career, but it's the one of 2014 that's the one that he really wants to know about, because this will hopefully kickstart him in the championship. 25 points for a victory. It can't come soon enough for the Swede. He turns up now towards the Lycée Barthou. That's where he made a small mistake early in the race. No dramas on this lap. Ocon in second place, having to settle for points now, and the cars sweep their way towards Parc Beaumont for the final time, and then into the Foch chicane. Over the curb, bounces Rosenqvist, blasts out of the corner, back on the power. They dive downhill to the hairpin at Poe-Miro for the last time, and Felix Rosenqvist is going to give Muka Motorsport a second victory of the season. Lucas Auer had a win at Hockenheim, and on the streets of France around Pau, it is going to be a victory for Muka Motorsport thanks to Felix Rosenqvist. He comes out of the last corner. The 73rd Pau Grand Prix is won by Felix Rosenqvist, who is an absolutely elated driver. Second is Esteban Ocon, and third is Tom Blomqvist. He's back. Felix Rosenqvist takes victory. It's been a long time coming, but round 9 of the FIA Formula 3 European Championship is won by Felix Rosenqvist, a masterful drive. The 2014 Pau Grand Prix is won by Felix Rosenqvist, and his winning margin less than a second, 0.8 of a second, but it's enough. He scores the victory, and although a French hero is defeated, fans young and old have seen a very fine drive by Felix Rosenqvist. He has now proved that he can still do it. He's not lost anything over the winter. And as the checkered flag is waved to the remainder of the cars that come over the line, Rosenqvist kick-starts his championship campaign. He's done it a bit late, I'll grant you, but this will certainly help him as the cars will go next to the Hungaroring. At the checkered flag, both arms aloft even before he got to the timing line. A win for Felix Rosenqvist, Esteban Ocon in second, and then for the podium behind them in third place, Tom Blomqvist. So Felix Rosenqvist it is who is the winner of the Pau Grand Prix. See the gaps as the rest of the cars came through. Esteban Ocon in second spot and Tom Blomqvist in third. And then we also have the rookie contest. That was won by Esteban Ocon. Second, Jake Dennis, his first year of F3, and then the third of the rookies, Antonio Fuoco. The result of round 9 of the FIA Formula 3 European Championship, a win for Rosenqvist ahead of Esteban Ocon and Tom Blomqvist. Jake Dennis 4th ahead of Mitch Gilbert and Lucas Auer. 7th, Dennis van der Laar, John Bryant Meisner 8th, Jordan King 9th, Antonio Giovinazzi comes home 10th. 11th, Antonio Fuoco, just out of the points, frustratingly. 12th, Felipe Guimaraes, and 13th, Felix Morales. 14th, Jules Szymkowiak ahead of Tatiana Calderon, and then Roy Nissany. Ed Jones 17th, Hector Hurst a lap down 18th, Nicholas Latifi heads those that didn't make it to the end. Michele Beretta, Riccardo Agostini, Sean Galal, Max Verstappen, Gustavo Menezes, Alex Toril and Spike Goddard, all on that long list of people who tried and failed to conquer Pau this weekend. For Felix Rosenqvist, though, it is a victory, and he puts his name in the history books as a winner of Pau Grand Prix. Many of the previous winners of F3 Pau Grand Prix have gone on to Formula 1. Is Felix Rosenqvist going to be able to do the same? He's had a rather long baptism in junior single-seater racing. He's now in his, fifth season indeed in a Formula 3 car. So he really does need to win this title this year and have that momentum to progress. Otherwise, I fear it will be too late. But Felix Rosenqvist has proved he can still gets out of the car a happy man, and he will make his way through the fence to say well done to the Muka engineers, and then from Parc Fermé the drivers will be escorted up to the podium. Tom Blomqvist gets out of his car, puts the steering wheel back on, and the FIA technical delegate, Bob Bassett, will be there in a moment to carry out the requisite post-race checks. There is a relieved as much as happy Felix Rosenqvist. And it's two Qvists for the podium. Tom Blomqvist will be there as well. And Esteban Ocon, Frenchman, will be there to see all the abuse the Hankook tyres have had in that race, all the pickup on them, which makes the cars oh so difficult to drive, with slight vibration towards the end of the race. But Felix Rosenqvist took it all in his stride, and the Mercedes engine Dallara comes out on top. The officials rounding up the drivers. Felix is happy. Fred Espinosa, who is the media delegate for the championship, congratulates him. And Fred will in a moment whisk the drivers to the podium. Shakes all round. This way, Felix. So the winner sets off towards the podium. And it's a very popular result. As you can see, it's going to take him a long time to get to the podium. Everybody wants to say well done. The man in the headset prowling past at the front there, Bob Bassett, the technical delegate, who will administer the scrutineering checks on the cars in a few moments' time. And assuming all is well, then the result will be confirmed. Felix Rosenqvist, incidentally, still pushing on that last lap. He did the best of anybody in the middle sector. Esteban Ocon did the best of anybody in the first sector. And did the best of anybody in the last sector, all on the last lap of the race. And when they came across the line, 8/10 split Rosenqvist from Ocon at the end of round 9 of the championship. So Felix Rosenqvist comes out on top, and his first victory of the season, the second for Mirka Motorsport. And with that win factored into the championship, we'll see where he ends up after we've had the podium ceremony. But Felix, congratulated by all, heads to the podium. And I think he's finally battled through all of his well-wishers, so we should be just about ready. 2 podiums. We have the top 3 in the rookie classification as well. And as soon as the drivers are there, then the signal will be given and we can get the podium ceremony underway. The next stop for the championship will be the Hungaroring, a very different circuit again, one at which, again, overtaking is not that easy, so I suppose it has that in common with Po, but it will have the importance on qualifying once again. New track for many of the drivers. The winner of the Po Grand Prix, round 9 of the championship, Felix Rosenqvist, heads out onto the podium. He stands on the top step. Esteban Ocon second on home soil, and for third place, Tom Blomqvist makes his way to the podium, and the drivers joined as well by Mirka Motorsport's representative at the end of the Po Grand Prix. So the Swedish driver is victorious in the Po Grand Prix. Felix Rosenqvist will in a moment receive his trophy from Francois Bayrou, the mayor of Po, and a very impressive Po Grand Prix trophy it is. Felix Rosenqvist for Mirka Motorsport on the top step of the podium, and the next trophy is going to be presented to the winning team representative. No, there is a further award for the winner of the event, which is an Osso watch, courtesy of Arnaud Besnier, the co-owner of Osso watches. So it's not just points in the championship, rewards come aplenty for Felix Rosenqvist. Now the award to Mirka Motorsport as the winning team. Mirka, a team with a fine history over the years. Another win, but a significant one. The Pau Grand Prix to Muka Motorsport. And Esteban Ocon for second place, still not looking terribly pleased with life, but he receives his trophy now from Pierre Bang, the managing director of Total. And Tom Blomqvist now receives his third place trophy from Joël Doval, the president of the Grand Prix of Pau. Felix Rosenqvist, only the second Swedish winner of this event, the last being Rainer Wiesel, who won in the Formula 2 Lotus in 1971. And with the photographs being taken, the flags in the background, there is champagne for the drivers. I think they still need more photos to be taken. Yes, they all huddle together on the top step now. And Esteban Ocon picks up his trophy. He moves to stand alongside, indeed almost dwarfing Felix Rosenqvist. Much taller driver is Esteban Ocon, the Lotus Junior driver. And the photographs taken at the end of an impressive drive by all three, in fact, for the podium. Tom Blomqvist there in the yellow overalls. And the champagne is there. All for the podium, more photographs to be taken. And the drivers bide their time. For Felix Rosenqvist, a race win that has not come a moment too soon. For Esteban Ocon and Tom Blomqvist, you have all three winners there represented on the podium. Tom's drive in race 2 was mighty. Esteban Ocon in yesterday's race, very impressive indeed. Right, I think everybody that needs their photograph taken has done so. There'll be another presentation and a photograph of the watch for Felix Rosenqvist. And then the rookie podium will get underway. But there is still this champagne that the drivers need to attack, I think. So, without fear of having to dry out for more activity in the overalls later on, they don't need to get back in a racing car. The champagne can be sprayed, and the drivers and team representative leave the podium. Tom Blomqvist in the yellow, the orangey yellow overalls for Felix Rosenqvist, and the Lotus colours, the black and red and gold on Esteban Ocon's overalls. The rookie contest won by Esteban from Jake Dennis and then Antonio Fuoco. But it has been another very impressive drive that we have seen by Ocon. He may not have come out on top, but he has scored yet more points. He's looked strong, and it's been another very good effort by the French driver. And another look at the champagne as Esteban Ocon aims at Felix Rosenqvist, and everybody scatters from the podium. Championship in rude health, full grids, and talked about the fact that it goes to Hungary next, but then to Spa-Francorchamps, the very popular, very fast Belgian circuit where it supports the World Touring Car Championship. From Spa to the Norris Ring, back with the DTM, where the cars will be on another street circuit, and then to Moscow at the start of August for a new venue for the championship last year, the Moscow Raceway. Then to the Red Bull Ring in Austria, the Nürburgring, Imola on the calendar this year, and Hockenheim is where it all concludes at the end of the season. So some impressive circuits still to be visited, and also some very impressive venues for drivers to have to attack. Well, there is Esteban Ocon, who is the winner of the rookie classification, and we anticipate the trophy in a moment. But first of all, we need second and third, don't we? So where is Jake Dennis? There he is, making his way out in the red, white and blue Racing Steps Foundation colours. And Antonio Fuoco, like Esteban Ocon for the Prema Power team, he is the third of the rookies, and Esteban Ocon, the French driver, wins the rookie contest on home soil. For Esteban Ocon, then, the French national anthem. He is the winner of the rookie contest. Second overall, no disgrace at all in that. And Francois Berroux, the mayor of Pau, hands over the winner's trophy. And Esteban Ocon has got quite a collection of trophies already this year, with his outright wins, with his rookie class wins as well. He is having a very, very good season indeed. And the trophy for Jake Dennis is handed over by Joël Doval, who is the president of the Pau Grand Prix. And then we have the Pau Sport representative to hand over the trophy for third place. The Pau Tourism Board, of course, keen supporters of the Pau Grand Prix, plural, because there is the historic Grand Prix here in a week's time. So with the infrastructure for the circuit in place, why not make the most out of it? And with historic racing having had its street festival at Monaco this weekend, then there'll be one or two teams and drivers, I'm sure, keen for another weekend. It doesn't have all the same categories, but some will come here. And with photographs to be taken, the rookie drivers huddle together on the top step of the podium. Esteban Ocon, the man in the middle. Jake Dennis, the British driver. It has been a good weekend. In contrast, Antonio Fuoco, who came here as a race winner already this season, has really struggled with this circuit. A lack of track time, really, on Friday did for him. And he has struggled since to fight back. But perhaps at the Hungaroring, we'll see the best of him once again, because that is where we go next in the FIA Formula 3 European Championship. The rookie drivers make their way from the podium, and all is good for the top three. Let's look at some of the highlights of round 9. A good start by Rosenqvist, a slowish start by Ocon. Max Verstappen suffering a little bit of damage against the nose cone. There was more to come at the first corner, as Spike Goddard was hit, sent into the wall, and he was out, having clashed with Joachim Kowiak with broken suspension. Then Alex Torrell hit the back of Tatiana Calderon going up towards Pont Oscar, and others piled in as well, Hector Hurst suffering damage. Then we had yet another drama, a spin going uphill. That was Riccardo Agostini out early doors. Rosenqvist had built a lead, but then he had that tiny lock-up at the Lycée Barthou, which cost him time. Then we had the safety car, a legacy of the accident at the Foch chicane. And up to the checkered flag, it was Felix Rosenqvist who came through to score his first win of the season. Esteban Ocon in second place, and Tom Blomqvist in third. 3 races, 3 different winners over the weekend to illustrate how competitive the championship is this year. For Rosenqvist, delight and relief as he celebrated in Parc Fermé and on the top step of the podium as the winner of the 73rd Pau Grand Prix. Esteban Ocon taking second place, and Tom Blomqvist the third. So a key weekend in the championship. Esteban Ocon leads Pau with the advantage. Tom Blomqvist is second, Lucas Auer third. Verstappen, Fuoco, Giovinazzi 4th, 5th, 6th ahead of Jordan King, Jake Dennis. But Rosenqvist was 12th, he's now 9th ahead of Ed Jones, and Rosenqvist now has really kick-started his season at long last. 11th is Latifi ahead of Sorales and Gilbert. Van der Laar is 14th from Nissany and Brandt Meisner. Goddard 17th from Menezes, with Hector Hurst 19th. Sean Galisle is 20th. There are others that have yet to score. Felipe Guimaraes and Riccardo Agostini have a point each, but Barretta, Szymkowiak, Calderon and Torrell have yet to get out of the starting blocks. Ferrucci and Zello we've not yet seen this year, but they're registered for the championship. So, drama at Pau. Some great racing, a fine drive by Felix Rosenqvist to win the 73rd Pau Grand Prix. The FIA Formula 3 European Championship story continues next in Hungary. But for now, from France, from David Addison, goodbye.